I think it's a little bit arrogant to think that you can achieve 10 things at once. Here's the secret. Go all in on that one and you can have all the rest. Look at really successful people. You can usually reverse engineer. What was their one thing? So Tony Robbins, it was speaking. Oprah Winfrey, it was media. Matthew McConaughey, it was acting. And every business has a core business. I always say Tesla shouldn't sell energy drinks. Red Bull shouldn't sell cars. Imagine if Apple just started selling houses. That would be dumb. A lot of business owners make that mistake. They dilute what they stand for. There's a wandering generality, which is trying to be everything for everyone, and then there's a meaningful specific. Most people are either successful externally in the economy or internally fulfilled. Very rarely do those two go hand in hand. People say it's the journey, not the destination. Listen, it's both. The goals you set dictate the journey. I'm with you. The journey needs to be enjoyed too, but if you don't have any destination, you're not on a journey. You're just wandering around. It wasn't my fault my stepdad left. It wasn't my fault my dad died, but it is my responsibility to build a life out of that. You have a bigger, better, brighter future on the other side of taking more responsibility.
So I want to jump straight into the kind of origin story, shall we say. So my understanding is that you say your life changed, or you changed your life after a near fatal car accident when you were 26. I know it might sound obvious to some people, but can you expand a little bit on what happened there and what changed after that moment?
Well, the first thing to understand is that the reason the car accident was so impactful for me was because of my origin story, which is way early on. So my father passed away in a car when he was 28. My birth father is John McCorkle. And I had a stepfather, Steve Lazaros, from age 3 to 14. So when I was 2, this is 1991, my birth father died in a car suddenly at 28 years old when I was 2. I had an older sister who was 6. I had a mom who was 31. And when I was 26, I got into my own car accident. Head-on collision, my fault, wrong side of the road. Luckily, I was in the safest car ever. It was a Volkswagen Passat. I think Volkswagen in some ways saved my life. Both airbags deployed. I used to call this car the tank because it was such a heavy set, safe car. And so the whole front end was completely smashed in, but the frame stayed. And if I was in some little Toyota or something, I probably wouldn't be here. So I'm really grateful for that. But when you mentioned I changed my whole life, I think the thing that I changed the way I look at myself, the way I look at other people, and the way I look at the world. And I now understand that we're all sort of enculturated a certain way. You and I talked before we did the interview about where you were born and raised and where I was born and raised. And we're all born with these sort of pristine, empty hard drives. I'm a computer engineer, so everything's numbers and computers for me. And then we just get downloaded all of this information. Like I speak English because I was born in Massachusetts. If I was born in Shanghai, I'd speak Chinese. And what you realize as you get older, alarmingly so, is how little of what you were taught was actually accurate. And I was born in a situation, my mom and stepdad, from age 3 to 14, my stepdad was around. And they liked to party. And he worked for a company called AGFA. They did hospital computers during the dot-com bubble. So we did very well financially. So from the outside in, I looked like one of the rich kids. From the inside out, it was not pretty. My mom and stepdad didn't get along. That's a polite way to put it. And they liked to party. And so I grew up in an environment with a lot of, first of all, the dot-com bubble in the US was wild. The US economy is by far the largest. You can look this up. And I don't say that for any other reason other than back in the 90s, it was growing 33% year over year for a couple of years. I mean, it was just wild. The 90s were just economic boom times globally, but in the US in particular. And so it was just everyone seemed to have money. And I playfully refer to that part of my life as boats and BS. I mean, we had snowmobiles, we had a yacht, we lived on a lake, my mom drove a BMW, we'd ski trips, and it was just a wild time. And then when my stepdad left, he took 95% of the income with him. So I went from boats and ski trips to now I get free lunch at school because our income is so low. My mom trades in her BMW for a little Honda Civic. He took his entire extended family with him. Haven't seen or spoken to a single one of them since. It's wild. Same year, hardest year of my life, I'm 14. Sister moves out with her older boyfriend. Same year, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy, her sister. We get ostracized from that side of the family. And we don't associate much with the McCorkles anymore because we're trying to be the Lazaroses, right? So by the time I'm 14, I kind of lost 3 families. 2 trauma responses to all that. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the 4 trauma responses if you study it. I didn't understand what fawn was until my 30s. Fawn is basically you become this sort of social coward. You appease, appease, appease. So I basically became this chameleon who would just do whatever he had to do to not be abandoned. Friends and family, just don't lose any more friends and family. But behind the scenes, when no one was watching, it was fight. It was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. It was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Because I looked into the future, and I do realize now in hindsight, this is actually not completely unique to me, but rare. I got a therapist in my 30s, and I started learning about an ACE score, adverse childhood experiences, and I started learning about all this stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, so not everyone responds that way. And so I'm very grateful that that was my response. But I looked into the future, no generational wealth, no dad, no trust fund. We're in trouble if I don't do something about it. Fortunately, I had a lot of self-belief. And so I just bootstrapped my way through high school, straight A's. I went from when my stepdad was around, my dream was to go to WPI. So your co-host is currently at MIT, Harvard right now. So there's a school called Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I actually spoke there like 3 times in the last couple months, which has been really cool. But that was my dream college when I was a kid. It's kind of like a mini MIT. There's a quote, friends don't let friends go to MIT. It's like a joke because it's engineering schools and that kind of thing. But it was $50,000 a year, and this is back then. So I went from I hope I get in, my stepdad leaves, to I'm not even going to be able to go. So I got all straight A's through high school, got all the financial aid and scholarships I could. I got my computer engineering degree. I got my master's in business, and then it was off to the races. So I did the traditional path. I did the preschool, kindergarten, middle school, high school, crushed it in high school, college, corporate, crushed it in corporate. And then I got in my car accident. And that's when I changed the way I look at life. It changed my entire frame of reference. So in hindsight, I was externally successful and internally unfulfilled. And then I went all in on being fulfilled first, and then hoped success would be a byproduct, which actually didn't work. I was super fulfilled, happy, healthy, productive, fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness coach. Had my own company called Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. Mm-hmm. I wanted to bring personal development to the masses. Mm-hmm. And I'm still kind of trying to do that, which was a very challenging. Good luck getting speeches at high schools and colleges with that tagline, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went broke. And then eventually in my 30s, I started to really succeed as a business coach. We have an 18-person team now. We have a podcast with over 2,000 episodes. But ultimately, the whole moral of the story is essentially, first of all, struggle and success come hand in hand. Secondly, I actually think most people are one or the other. What I mean by that is most people are either successful externally in the economy or internally fulfilled. Very rarely do those two go hand in hand. And the reason why is because the work that's most meaningful to us is very rarely what the economy pays the most for. Sometimes it is, right? Like if you're passionate about basketball and you happen to be LeBron James, okay, great. But at the end of the day, most people are not externally successful and internally fulfilled. And that's really what I do now. That's my main focus now is some people are really successful but not fulfilled. Other people are really fulfilled but not that successful. And now I try really hard to sort of marry the two.
Right, and bridge the gap for people. And would you work equally on either side, or is a particular, because you would think being internally fulfilled, it becomes easier to become externally successful than the other way around, or do you disagree?
It depends. So it depends. And there's a lot of different ikigai, all this kind of stuff, but I try to simplify everything as much as possible because I realize if you don't simplify, people won't execute. And this is coming off. So 10 years mentoring, 8 years coaching, over 7,000. I have it all tracked. I'm an engineer, so I just track everything. I'm all metrics.
Spreadsheets everywhere.
Always. Tons of spreadsheets, right? And thank you for knowing me without knowing me. But I have it all tracked, and I do coaching, training, and podcast, and that's all I do now. And I've been coaching for 8 years, and I have over 7,000 hours of coaching individuals from all over the world. And it's been the best learning experience of my life. I mean, just so many perspectives, so many cultures, so many backgrounds, so many people, and digging deep too. We're not talking about surface level shit ever. And so what I've come to understand is that it really comes down to what we talked about in the pre-call, which is self-belief and self-worth. But when you say, do you find that it's easier to be successful if you're fulfilled? The answer is yes and no. Let me explain. If you are passionate about something that you're actually good at and the economy pays for it, then yes. And there's a way to do that. It's just way harder because it's not sexy to be a tax accountant, but tax accountants statistically are very successful, right? They do very well. So the more romanticized an industry is, like podcasting, for example, the harder it is to succeed because there's so many other people competing for it. And that's been alarmingly, like, building a podcast and a successful business in this industry, the personal development industry, has been alarmingly difficult. And we've done very well. I mean, statistically speaking, we're very, very successful. But I also haven't taken a full day off in 10 years. So I I think that it's romanticized a lot to try to be fulfilled first and then have success be a byproduct, when in reality, a lot of people that are the most successful actually had to grind for 30 years doing something they didn't necessarily love.
Hmm. It's interesting. It comes back to what you said about struggle and success going hand in hand. That you've built this, I was going to say empire, maybe that's too big a word, but you've built this huge business and you've got a podcast that's got over 2,000 episodes and a team all over the world, but you haven't taken a day off really in 10 years.
Well, let me make that as clear as possible
Hmm.
real quick. I sometimes it's an hour,
Okay.
sometimes it's 16 hours, right? It's not 12-hour days every day,
Right. Yeah. But it's
but
something.
yeah, no, I build something every day for the business. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you think it's one of those things where if you love what you do, it never feels like work? Is it kind of like that?
I think it's, and again, I'm extremely numbers based and practical, and I try really hard to be as honest as I can. I would say it's more percentage, more percentage, more percentage work that fulfills me. But no, of course not, right? I mean, some days just suck entirely. And they say, like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. There's going to be a lot of stuff around that that has to get done. Like,
Like taxes.
exactly. Or leadership, delegation, frustration. I mean, I think that frustration is the emotional byproduct of blocking up against a goal. So I think that most people who are actually achievers, who really do succeed, what they're not showing you is a lot of how frustrating it is behind the scenes. I went on a walk this morning with my beautiful girlfriend Emilia, and I was just, we call it emoting, which is just like tea kettling. Not at her. We're not fighting. We're good. But I'm just spewing all of my frustrations about everything. And I think a lot of what it takes to succeed is actually wildly frustrating. And I think most frustrations are where innovation actually happens. Like, most inventions are based on frustration, right? So you use Riverside. I'm sure Riverside built their business on a bunch of people complaining about Zoom or whatever, right? Because Zoom audio quality is terrible for podcasts. So Riverside was like, okay, well, that's frustrating for people. Let's build a company. So, and again, that's me projecting. I don't actually know if that's their story. But the point is that I think that anyone who wants to believe they can be very successful externally without frustration is lying to themselves, for sure.
Well, it's one of those things as well. I think Joe Rogan was talking about it semi recently. That if you look at anybody that's what you would deem externally successful, none of them say, yeah, it was super easy and it just fell on my lap and I didn't really need to do anything and now I'm a multimillionaire. Unless maybe they inherited. For most people, it's I was on a grind for decades or years, or I had to sacrifice this, or I gave up that, or whatever it is. And that probably makes it more fulfilling anyway, let alone whatever the number is that people want to earn or want to have in the bank. The fact that they've gone through the grind becomes fulfilling in itself.
As long as it's an aligned grind, as long as it's worth it. The So coaching a bunch of different people, I've come to understand that not everyone wants to aim as high. So let me break down the formula. And everything in my head is a formula, so bear with me for that. The higher your self-belief, known in psychology as self-efficacy, the higher you'll aim, meaning the higher your goals will be. The higher your goals will be, the higher standards you'll have to operate with in the present. And the higher your standards are in the present, the more frustrating your life will be. So for example, in fitness, if you believe in yourself a lot in fitness, you'll have a high goal to have a 6-pack or an 8-pack or whatever. and to be a certain body comp. If you do have that dream, that goal, you immediately, everything you do and don't do in the present has to be ridiculously high standards, which means you're going to be constantly frustrated with how hard it is to actually coexist with other human beings. And I have bodybuilding trophies behind me, and that was a time in my life where I had to literally bring my own meal to a wedding. Like, and that's just, and I got the bride actually yelled at me because she had paid for a meal or whatever. And I said, hey, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And I also told you in advance and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think that goals and relationships are very hard to integrate, just like external success and internal fulfillment are very hard to integrate. You can think of someone who's really fulfilled and they love their quality of life, but they're not that successful. And you can think of someone who's really successful, who lives on a mansion on the beach, but who isn't that thrilled about maybe their relationship or their friends and that kind of thing. It's very hard to do both. I'm not saying you can't. I don't want you to be pessimistic here. You definitely can. It's just way harder. So I crunched the numbers once. Health, wealth, and love is what our podcast is built on. Next Level University, 1% improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free. Next Level You. And health, wealth, life, and love is what we say. But health, wealth, and love. So health is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. Wealth is how you earn your money. Do you love what you do? How much do you earn? Is that increasing or decreasing? And then where do you invest it? And then love is intimate relationship, immediate family, extended family, friends, colleagues, clients, mentors, all that. That's 3 full-time jobs right there. And if you're top 1% in each, that's 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 times 1 over 100. So if you're top 1% in health, wealth, and love, you're 1 in a million. And you can't be 1 in a million and expect that to be easy. This is why really successful people, statistically speaking, are actually out of shape and divorced. Right? Because they invested their focus and their time and their effort on the career piece more than their. So I'm trying to be healthy, wealthy, and in love. And it is alarmingly difficult, but it's also worth it and it's amazing, but it's both sides of that coin. I think it's important to understand beneath the iceberg. Like everyone wants the, nice body, but everything underneath that is nothing but just fucking frustrating, to be honest.
Yeah. It was interesting. It made me think of, we had somebody on the podcast recently, his name's Peter Horan, and he shared a quote, might have even been his own quote. It's, people think they can have everything. And he said, you can have anything, but not necessarily everything. Right.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's 1 in a million. There's a possibility, but the likelihood is to go all in on one means some sort of sacrifice of time or energy or focus on
Of
the
course.
others.
Yeah, of course. I always say 1 is too few and 5 is too many. And all my clients, we do, I always have to close my eyes when I do this for some reason. So, because I have to see it on a whiteboard. Okay. We do dreams, goals, priorities, metrics, habits, skills, and identity. That's it. That's the roadmap. And there's other things like make sure you have the right tools for success, the right iPhone, the right laptop, the right software, whatever. But those are the main things. And we pick 3 goals. Every one of my clients has 3 quarterly goals. 3. Not 1, not 5, 3. And they have one most important skill, MIS, most important skill that they work on every quarter. And what you find is that one is you end up with tunnel vision and you're not holistic and you end up sacrificing your health or your relationship for your success. But any more than 3, and you might as well forget it, because I think it's a little bit arrogant to think that you can achieve 10 things at once. I just do. And I've been arrogant in the past with that too. Like I had every dream. I wanted to be a fitness model and I wanted to be a fitness coach and I wanted to be a fitness competitor. I wanted to be a successful podcaster and a successful business owner and a CEO. And I wanted 3 kids and eventually I realized this fundamental principle. One of my coaches, his name was Alex. He said, hypothetically, if you could go all in on one, which one would it be? I said, no, I'm going to do them all. How dare you not believe in me, right? And he's like, no, hypothetically. And I said, honestly, it would be the podcast because it's where I get to speak. It's where I get to express. It's where I get to impact the most people. We have people reaching out. It would be the podcast. He said, here's the secret. Go all in on that one and you can have all the rest. And that's a paradox that I don't think people are taught. It's true. All the other ones came true, but I went all in on one and I haven't missed an episode in 2040 episodes, 2045 as of yesterday. So that one train, there's a lot of stuff around it. And when you optimize for that one, and then you have supplemental things around it, you can be very, very, very successful. But if you look at really successful people, you can usually reverse engineer. What was their one thing? So Tony Robbins, it was speaking. Oprah Winfrey, it was media. Matthew McConaughey, it was acting, right? Like you can find their one. They did other stuff. They did other stuff around it, but there was one thing that they became known for, right? Steve Jobs was tech companies, running tech companies. So
It's a master of one trade rather than a jack of all kind of thing.
but you have to be holistic as well. So it's that Warren Buffett's finance. So you have to be a master of one while also well-rounded enough to like lead people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so maybe leaning into your engineer brain, what percentages would you align there? So going all in,
80,
I assume it's not 100%. 80,
80,
20, you say?
80%, yeah. So 80% of my life is invested in one thing, which is business coaching. I'm trying now, again, that's what I'm optimizing for. So I only do 3 things at this stage. I coach, I train, and I podcast. In the beginning, it was the podcast. Now the podcast needs to keep going. That train can never stop, but that's not where I'm investing the most time and effort. So, and I'm so grateful you asked for my engineering brain because I usually feel very unwelcome. So time, effort, and money are the only 3 resources anyone has. Mm-hmm. And where you invest the time, effort, and money is going to determine your future for the most part, unless you have generational wealth, which I didn't. So most of my time and effort, what I'm optimizing for, there's something called an optimal stopping problem. Have you ever heard of it?
Rings a bell, but expand.
There's a book called Algorithms to Live By. It's a computer scientist's approach to decision making. And it's an extremely boring book for most people, but it's really important. And there's something called an optimal stopping problem. And so if anyone's on camera, I'm using my hands on this. It's too little, too much. Everything is the center point of too little, too much. So for example, I'm in real time trying to figure out the optimal amount I should talk before everyone shuts off and doesn't listen to me. So if you put the nachos in for 3 minutes, they burn. If you put them in for only 1 minute, the cheese isn't melted. Everything is that. 45 minutes, is that optimal for this episode, or is it a minute, right? So I'm optimizing for building the most positively impactful personal development company in history. That's the vision for the mission, the future. How, though? Each one of my team members has what I call a G3 target, your genius zone. It has 3 priorities. Mine is coaching, training, podcasting. And I just say, stay on target, stay on target, stay on target. They all track their time. And then I analyze their time every month when I do payroll. And I see, okay, here's the date. Here's the amount of time you invested in minutes. So 120 minutes, 2 hours. And then here's what you accomplished. And then here is the department that you tie it to. So they have to tie their time to something they accomplished. And then they have to tie what they accomplished to an actual department. And the departments are designed to feed each other. Because what we found is we expanded a lot. We grew by 119% year over year for 4 years straight. So it was like 164, 150, 115, and then 140 or something like that. And it averaged out to 119%, I'm sorry. And so back then, from 2020 to 2019 to 2023, we grew by 119% year over year. For any business owners out there, you lose your mind. You don't even mean to. It's like, yeah, run it, do it, buy it. Kevin bought a BMW, go to Scotland. We're doing all these, hire the person, run it, do it. Think about it. If a credit card charges you 29% interest, but you're growing 119% year over year, you're still 90% in the green. But what happens when it becomes 18% and then 11%? And you overextended and you bought too much stuff and you leveled up too quickly. So companies lose for 2 reasons. They grow too slow or they grow too fast. So in the beginning, we were growing too slow. And then after COVID, we were growing too fast. What is the right amount of cash on hand to keep? And I do 10% of goal growth. So if your goal is $500,000, you need at least 50 grand cash. Otherwise you might go out of business, right? And then what's the, income to debt ratio, all this kind of stuff. The point that I'm making though, to answer your original question, is 80-20. 80% of my time and effort is focused on the primary thing. For me, it's business coaching. That is what we have found is the most crucial for our company's success, because that leads to everything else. The other 20% is spent on training and podcasting. So I have a speech later today for Toastmasters, and then I'm on this podcast right now, right? But my primary thing is the thing that is directly profitable, which is business coaching. And again, I'm having a hard time explaining the math underneath all that, but it's Pareto's principle. 20% of effort produces 80% of reward. Well, what happens when you take 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% of 20%? You get 0.04%, which is the top leverage. So each of us at the NLU team, we have an 18-person team, has one top leverage point, meaning one most important thing that you do. And then we have 2 and 3 as well. So the top 3 things that Kevin does, the top 3 things that Christina does, the top 3 things that Amy does, it's my job to engineer our future success based on leverage points. And that's why when you ask me, like, shouldn't you be fulfilled? It depends. What if the thing that needs to be done the most, that's going to make you the most successful in business, is not fulfilling? Are you going to not do it and then go out of business? Good luck competing in business with someone who's willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. You talk about the 20% of the 20% of the 20% is kind of optimizing on the optimization and kind of keeping going down that route. For a lot of people, I think I think some people just don't think that way, and they might be successful through luck or grit or whatever, but it's probably harder to be consistent with it. And I think sometimes as well, there might be kind of like the balance in the middle. People might go too hard into the analyzing of everything. What would you say in terms of, so if somebody's listening to this thinking, okay, I to look at my business to start optimizing on things, what should I be looking at? How much data should I be looking at? What do I do? What would you say?
Well, it depends entirely, and everything does, but it depends entirely on who we're talking to. Am I talking to someone who owns their own company? Is this a business owner
Let's assume, yeah.
in this case? Okay. The CEO is responsible for the company's success. So if the company fails, it's your fault, basically. If my company fails, it's entirely my fault, I think, right? And obviously, right, other team and all that, but ultimately it's my fault. I led poorly. So I have to look at where, and there's 2 companies you're always leading. There's really 3. There's who you used to be, who you are now, and who you're going to be. But the CEO's job, in my opinion, is you have to stay in business and survive in the now in order to get to the future. So you have to, number 1 priority is don't go out of business. So where is your best use of time to make the most directly profitable revenue for the company in alignment with the vision? That's the hard part. So I'll give you an example. So I have a meeting later today. I got offered a potential, and it's not closed yet, but a potential adjunct professor for a leadership course at my alma mater, WPI. And I'm meeting with the head of the WPI School of Business later today. Is that fully in alignment? No, because it's not necessarily within coaching, training, podcasting. However, it's not far enough out of alignment where it wouldn't be a good opportunity for many reasons. And I love leadership and I love teaching students, and it's a huge opportunity, and I'm so excited. And depending on what they offer, I will figure out whether or not it is aligned. If it's not profitable, I can't do it because the company will go out of business if I do too many things that are not profitable. If it is profitable, I can dedicate the summer and do a good job. Everything is a decision-making paradigm based on that. And I think that number 1 for any CEO or founder out there, you have to figure out where your current revenue is coming from and what do you do that contributes to that most. It might be indirect, it might be direct, but you need to figure out the most valuable use of your time for a current revenue. The next piece is you have to figure out what the company's going to be. Like, what is the biggest opportunity, new opportunity for the future? So learn from the past, build in the present. Let me give you an example. We created an app called Optimal. It was a habit tracking app. All my team and clients, they all track habits. And we created an app. We spent a bunch of money on this app, and it wasn't profitable. We only had 130 users or something like that. And I think we invested like $7 or $8 grand, which again isn't that much, but it's money we needed. And we were over expanding. It was, let's go to Scotland, buy a BMW, upgrade, new home, awesome, great, like new team, 24 people. We had 24 people and 24 departments and a charity. Now we only have 18 people. We only have 15 departments, and we still are doing our charity. Yeah. But like, we got crazy. We lost our minds a little bit. It was like, we're winning. Capture the win. Capture it. The fish are jumping in the boat. Just keep it going, baby. And then all of a sudden it's, where are all the fish at, though? We're just losing clients, right? And the app eventually, of the 24 departments that we had and 24 people, Kevin and I, my business partner, we had to sit down and go, okay, what are the departments that we would go out of business without? And we only came up with 8.
Out of the
8 of the
15 or
24.
24 at the
8 of the
time.
24, yeah, at the time. And then we re-expanded back into 15. I actually think when you go to a restaurant and there's tons of items on the menu, I actually think lower end. I think, and again, I'm not a McDonald's fan, so don't overdo this, but like the reason McDonald's was so successful, they found out that 87% of their sales were 3 items: burgers, fries, and soft drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So they just got rid of everything else except for that and milkshakes, and they built a whole franchise on it.
Mm.
I think saying no to the stupid stuff you're doing is actually way more important in business than anything else. So if you are the CEO or the founder, the long story long here is, number one, what is the most important use of your time to keep the company in business today? Number two, what's the future, and are you building it now? And you have to do both of those at all times. It's bad. It's tough. It's really tough.
Mm.
You don't see in shape business owners unless it's a fitness company. And the reason why is because it's a full-time job, 24/7, 365, everything's your fault. And that's why most businesses are very unsuccessful.
And I think going back to kind of getting the kind of narrowing focus, right? It's not to say that those other departments, the other 16 or so, if my math is correct, of that they were pointless or cost too much or something. But if we had to strip this back, what's the bare bones that we need to be able to continue going forwards? And I think a lot of founders, CEOs, owners might pivot a lot, which is not necessarily a bad thing, pivot a lot and then end up with 25 things to do every day, all right, or 25 different areas in which they're working. And then it kind of comes back to the Pareto principle. No one of them is getting enough attention.
It's unleveraged. When you spread yourself too thin, and every business has a core business. I always say Tesla shouldn't sell energy drinks, Red Bull shouldn't sell cars. Like Nike should not sell cars. Back in the day, Circuit City bought a CarMax and they started doing cars. It's like Circuit City was known for something. They diluted their own brand. There's a wandering generality, which is trying to be everything for everyone, which is what I used to be when I was afraid of abandonment. And then there's a meaningful specific. Like our company, there's a through line. If it doesn't have to do with success and personal development, we don't do it. This adjunct professor position is right on the fence. It's right on the fence. And I'll do it, and it most likely, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of my business coaching. Right. And so we have Next Level University podcast. We have Podcast Growth University. We have Business Growth University that I'm starting. So it's level up yourself, level up your podcast, level up your business. Listeners, longers, and business owners. So listeners learn from us. Longers want to build their own podcasts in their own communities. And then business owners they need to generate revenue. Otherwise they go out of business, basically. And so Kevin coaches the podcasters. I coach the business owners. We have something called the Next Level Podcast. This is the one I forgot. Group coaching. We've been doing group coaching for 18 groups. This is our 18th group. It's called the Next Level Podcast Accelerator. It used to be a personal development 12-week program, and now it's the Next Level Podcast Accelerator for podcasters. But that's one that we kept too, because we were already 15 groups in or 14 groups in. We're not going to stop that train. What are the things that make sense now and in the future? And this is why it's so hard to succeed and be fulfilled. There's a book I always keep on my desk called The Flywheel, Turning the Flywheel by Jim Collins. The concept is basically don't ever lose momentum. Never lose momentum. But here's the problem. You will lose momentum if you spread yourself too thin. You will lose momentum if you get away from your core business. You will lose momentum if you constantly are changing and chasing shiny objects. Like most of the companies, like imagine if Apple just started selling houses. That would be dumb. We don't think about it consciously, but consumers would be like, what the hell is Apple doing? Why would you, right? It doesn't make any sense. You're diluting what you stand for. And like Nike is honoring great athletes and great athletics, and they make athletic gear and they honor great athletes. They're not going to start selling computers, nor should they, right? So a lot of business owners make that mistake. They dilute what they stand for because they maybe picked the wrong thing, or maybe they grew and evolved out of it, or maybe they uncovered who they really are. Kevin's more guilty of this than me. He always comes to me, he jokes, he says, this could be the best idea in the world or the worst idea. And he'll come to me and I'd say sometimes it's good ideas, but sometimes it's like, dude, no, we're not gonna have some YouTube about that, right? It's not aligned with who we stand for and what we stand for. If you want to do that on your own as a side project, that's fine, but we're not going to put company money, into that. And he's given me the reign to do that when we decided on me being CEO. And that's another hard conversation too, of like who should be CEO. And I wanted him to be it, and I realized that we would have gone out of business in hindsight if that had happened. And he says that too. It's not me picking on Kev. Kev's great, but Kev's not a long-term strategic thinker, right? He's more creative and he's more people person. Like people like him. He's relatable, but he knows he gets shiny object syndrome, and he doesn't understand the mathematics behind success and achievement.
I'm always coming back to it. I think that cheesy nachos are stuck in my head for some reason, but that thing of it are they burnt or is the cheese not melted? I think probably having each other helps that middle ground be where it needs to be, because you can keep each other accountable to either side, I guess.
Great distinction. I said this, and this is something that I think is of value. And Kevin and I have learned a lot over the last 8 years. So I started my own company 10 years ago, and then he and I teamed up 8 years ago. But over the years, we've come to learn. And one of the things that I finally said, we had an in-person studio back then. This is in the early COVID days. And I said, Kev, I'm never fully right, but I'm definitely never fully wrong. And I think that comes off very arrogant to most people. What I mean is everything's a percent error. There is no right and wrong. Like there's more optimal or not, depending on the context, the goal, and the circumstance. I mean, if your goal is to be more successful, going to the beach is not going to help that unless you post it on social media. If your goal is to have a fun day, going to the beach is immediately optimal if you like the beach. And I just think you're not going to, I try really hard to like say this in a way that doesn't come off so pretentious, but you can't say, hey, I want to start a company and then like go to the beach. I never understood why I would watch people make terrible choices and then complain about why they're not succeeding. And it's like, well, no one succeeds when they don't work. And then there's books like The 4-Hour Work Week that makes it seem like you can be successful with only 4 hours a week. And Tim Ferriss, I respect him and I respect his work, but like he's worked 60 hours a week his whole freaking life, right? I mean, it's just a bunch of crap. Honestly, it's very unfortunate how much BS there is out there now. It's really hurting young people's mentality a lot. Like I'm 36, I know I look young, but there is no like big rewards for minimal effort. That's like not a thing. And for some reason, social media is really pretending that it is.
I agree. I think it harms young people, but actually any people, I guess, that kind of fall into that trap. That the thing of you can go to Dubai and you can rent a Ferrari for $50, whatever, for 15 minutes, and you can take pictures with it, and you can project that I made this course and now I'm a millionaire, and it only took me 10 hours or whatever it is, and then kind of follow that. I want to dig into, because you mentioned BS. And I know your approach is heartfelt but no BS. Can you expand a little bit on the balance there, I guess?
Hardest question ever, because the heart driven means I care enough to tell you the truth. I care enough to tell you that that's not going to work. That's not real. And the no BS part is the reason we do not win is because we see ourselves, others, in the world inaccurately. Imagine, and I always use a self-driving car as an example. So I have a self-driving car. It's been really cool. And I know a lot of people are hating on Tesla right now. I understand that. I get it. Please don't associate me with Elon or Tesla. I don't want anything to do with that. I just want a self-driving car. And I love electric cars. Okay? All right. Leave me out of the whole thing. So anyways, I've been waiting for self-driving cars in 10 years. I worked for iRobot. I'm a computer engineer. Like I am super shocked we haven't done this sooner. Like this is ridiculous. Let's stop driving our own vehicles. Again, I'm a technology guy. All right. Why not use that time and effort towards more important things? And by the way, they're safer. Statistically speaking, they're safer. I get it. Okay. People are scared of them. I get it. Okay. I'll get off that technology's soapbox for a second.
I'm so with you
But
on it, by the way. I don't have one,
okay,
but I
nice.
would love one.
Wouldn't it be great to be able to be productive and not have to concern yourself and just be
Yeah,
safe? And
yeah.
right, again, the Teslas, as much as they're very safe vehicles. So anyways, doesn't matter. The point is, my dad died in a car and I want a safe car, and I trust AI and the statistics of a self-driving car more than human beings with massive egos and road rage. Okay, just saying. But anyways, I'm a numbers guy and I understand why people are scared. The point that I was trying to make before that giant rant is a self-driving car is a great metaphor for why we don't win in life. When it comes to achievement, achievement is a science. It's an equation. It's a mathematical equation. So a self-driving car needs three things. It needs an accurate current location. If it thinks it's here and it's actually here, it's going to crash. So self-awareness. That's the metaphor, self-awareness. I didn't have a lot of self-awareness. That was my problem. I was external. I wasn't internal. Typical American male, right? Damn. Whoopsie. All right, number two. Number two is it needs an accurate destination location. People say it's the journey, not the destination. Listen, it's both. The destination you choose in advance dictates the entire journey. If I drive from Boston to Los Angeles, that's very different than driving 30 minutes south. People are like, oh, it's about the journey. Listen, the goals you set dictate the journey. I'm with you. The journey needs to be enjoyed too. But if you don't have any destination, you're not on a journey. You're just wandering around and then pretending that you're happy. And I think that carefree wandering is super romanticized. And of course, I would think that because I'm an engineer. I get it. All right. So, number one, accurate current location, self awareness. Number two, accurate destination location, goals. Need goals. I'm researching this right now because I'm giving a speech later today about how to reverse engineer your goals. Only 8% of people have clear written goals that they achieve. 8% as of 2025. 8 out of every 100 people have written goals that they achieve. I must be some freak of nature. Like, no wonder why I don't feel like I belong anywhere. I'm kidding. All right, so number two is goals. Needs an accurate destination location. The third thing, this is the key. This is the one. The self-driving car needs updated data of the terrain. Imagine if the GPS didn't have updated roads and it thinks it's a road when it's actually a cliff. It keeps driving off a cliff and then blaming the world. That's what a lot of people are doing. They're inaccurate about themselves. They're inaccurate about their goals. They're inaccurate about people. They're inaccurate about the world and how it works. And then they're upset when they lose. When in reality, listen, my childhood was brutal. Like, the reason I'm losing is because of me. It wasn't my fault my stepdad left. It wasn't my fault my dad died, but it is my responsibility to build a life out of that. It's my responsibility to learn and to grow and to. Now, not everyone's going to be an Olympic gold medalist. I get that, but anyone can get better. And I find it difficult to watch people that are not working hard, not learning, not working on themselves, not improving, no therapist, no coach, no mentor, lazy, and then complaining about not achieving anything. And then like blaming the government or blaming the world or blaming, and it's just not helpful. I understand. Trust me, I have empathy. It's just not helpful. It's not helping you. And there's a bunch of free resources. My podcast is free. Anybody can learn how to succeed if you have the intentionality to, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. There's a lot of great books. There's a lot of great mentors who would be willing to help you. And so the heart driven is, I care enough to tell you the truth. The no BS is get off your ass, right? Like, come on.
No, I'm so with you. Again, I find it actually really, it's empowering to own that the shit in my life is there because I put it there. Right? The things I don't have that I want, I don't have them because of the choices I made or the behaviors that I enacted or what I did or didn't do. That might not be 100% true all of the time. There are external circumstances, of course, that affect us. But if I can take responsibility for what's going wrong and what I'm going to do differently, then I can definitely also take responsibility about what's going right and be proud of that and own both. But I think a lot of people own what goes well. I got my promotion because I'm so great, but I lost my job because of the economy, right? It's that kind of dichotomy there.
The sign of true maturity that I look for before I hire anyone now is ownership. If you cannot take ownership, you will never work with me. And because I know that if I work with you, I'll take over ownership. You already heard me say if we fail, it's entirely on me. Like that, I need someone else who's saying, no, Alan, it's on me too. And one thing I want to share with you, the heart driven but no BS. I had a client who inspires the hell out of me. She was born, I kid you not, with no arms and no legs. She drives a car. She swims. She's amazing. She could have made any excuse, and she didn't. And she told me, she said, I was in the kiddie side of the pool, and I was sick and tired of watching all my friends swim in the deep end. And so I said, I'm going to learn how to swim. No arms and no legs. And she has told me behind the scenes, and I'll keep it anonymous. She said, I think there's a lot of people who don't like me. And the reason why is because I show them that their excuses are bullshit. And I connect with her so deeply. I'm such a huge fan, and she knows it. And it was such an honor to coach her. But I just think that it's like she has it harder than I've ever had it. So what am I complaining about? Yeah, you're right. I had it really bad growing up. I did. It was not good. Whoa. But I have my arms and legs. I have my brain. I am capable. And so for anyone out there who has any level of entitlement of like victimhood and poor me, listen, I get it. I see you. I've coached couples for 4 years. I've had over 7,000 hours with people from all over the world going deep into their past and their present and their future. It's probably atrocious, some of the things that have happened to you, but it's not helping you to want big rewards for minimal effort. It's not helping you to just sit there and do nothing about it. And you have the power. You should see, she showed a video behind the scenes of how she drives. She has it all rigged, like the whole, she's sitting on books. Like she has it all set up to where she can wear her seatbelt and she can drive. It's the coolest thing ever. And I was on a coaching session. You wouldn't even know. When I'm on a coaching session with her, you wouldn't even know because it's like face up. I didn't even know when I first met her. I was on her podcast. Coolest thing ever. So, she still steps on the scale every day. She has her husband pick her up and put her on it. Like she's still exercising. To me, it's the most inspiring thing in the world. So, take ownership. Take ownership for your own life. I think that's really responsibility. When you take back responsibility, you take back your ability to respond.
I think, well, that's a great place to wrap up.
Hopefully I didn't get too fired up.
It was brilliant. Thank you so much, Alan, for this chat. And I know we went down different routes, but really fulfilling routes for me anyway. It's great to understand more about the depth behind the mindset and what happens, as well as the systems and the practical things we can put in place. So thank you so much for sharing across the board. Is there anything you think we've missed or anything you'd want to say before we finish?
This was an absolute honor. Becky, I really appreciate it. I feel like you created a really safe space to talk about what's real and what's actually helpful. Is there anything we missed? No, the last thing I would add is you have a bigger, better, brighter future on the other side of taking more responsibility. And it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle, but it's going to be worth it. And it's much better than the alternative, which is just be nihilistic and hopeless and helpless. Like that's worse. I tried. Trust me, I had a drinking problem and all kinds. I tried nihilism. It's not good. What is good is doing all you can with all you have. So hopefully we inspired somebody today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Seriously.
Thank you, Alan. Where would you like to point people? Obviously, the Next Level University podcast, but anywhere else you want to point them to keep up with you?
In the mirror. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. No, if you are humble and grateful and you have a sincere interest in achieving external success and internal fulfillment, you're going to love Next Level University, nextleveluniverse.com. You can email me, alan@nextleveluniverse.com, all spelled just like it sounds. If you have any level, and I used to be too much of a coward to share this, but if you have any level of entitlement and wanting big rewards for minimal effort, do not reach out under any circumstance because it's not going to be helpful for either of us. It's just going to waste our time. And thank you so much for having me. And if anyone wants to reach out, please do. Yeah, please do. I love what we do at NLU. Next Level You, not Next Level Me, not Next Level Becky, Next Level You. It's your own unique version of you, your own unique version of success, your own unique journey, right? We're not trying to tell you how to be. We're going to help you become the best you.
Nice. Love it. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate it.